Ben, it's good to see you, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. Happy to be here.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, you're at home for a little while here. Looks like you've
Yep,
been on the road a lot this season.
I have. Yeah, I've been all over the place. Been down in Arizona the last few months trying to get a coos deer killed with my bow, and back home now for a minute to just lick my wounds and try to heal up from the lack of success.
So, where is home?
So I live in central Utah, little place called Fillmore.
Okay, yeah. So Utah has been in the headlines lately. Your some of your politicians want to take some of that federal land back for
Yeah,
Utah, and I made a post the other day. I don't think 70% is the right amount.
right.
But where I'm from, Texas is 98% the opposite direction. So you guys, Utah, 70% public land. We're like 2%, and that's not good either.
No,
But my general take on it, and then I want to get your thoughts, was that the genie's already out of the bottle, and so I wouldn't change Utah, and we're not going to change Texas. We could theoretically buy a little bit more public land, right? But
right.
not. It's not going to be a massive change. And I think one is too extreme in one way, and the other is too extreme in the opposite direction. Um, but if I had to vote, if you were going to put a gun to my head, I'd be like, well, I don't know. Can you really trust the politicians to not just sell it off and
Right.
develop it? So what do you think as a native Utahn?
Well, it's hard because I hate the federal government, and
Mm,
that's what we always fall into as hunters is like, okay, it's better to have them manage our federal public lands than it is to have them in most cases private hands or the hands of the state, right? So
mm,
it's one of those things that's kind of like a necessary evil. I kind of hate that it gets painted with such a broad brush. Like you either support the public land transfer, or you don't. Well, I'm probably somewhere in the middle, honestly. I think
yeah.
that there's a lot of public land that doesn't have recreational value, that, doesn't have value to us as sportsmen or even, as your everyday hiker or whatever. And some of those do have a mineral value or they might have some sort of value that could bring income to the state. So, as with most things, like you could show me a piece of land and I could be like, yeah, that would be better managed in the hands of the state. And you could show me another one and I'd be like, no, get the state away. Like I don't want them to
Hmm.
turn that into housing. So
Yeah.
I'm in the middle somewhere on it. As a whole, I just pretty much don't support the transfer idea to the state. But at the same time, like Utah, man, we have a unique situation where we have like so many like national parks
Yeah.
and we have such a huge influx of tour-ons just from that. And I think the state could be better monetized on like our national parks. Like I hate the fact that the federal government sits here and earns millions and millions and millions of dollars from the national parks every year when we're the ones in our state who have to kind of like put up with the effects of bringing those millions of people to Utah.
Yeah. What's the place where everybody takes their Jeeps and goes rock crawling? Moab?
Yeah, you have Moab, Moab's not even a national park. It's a ton of federal public land, but like Zion, I think has been or is the most visited national park in the US.
Uh-huh.
Millions of people per year. And I used to live like at the foot, like at the doors basically of Zion National Park. And as a citizen of the state, you definitely feel the pressure of the millions of visitors.
Mm, yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm in.
Well, I like your answer. It's you wouldn't support it either, but there it's not so black and white as you're
Right.
just absolutely for it or against it.
Yep.
Um, so I knew of you and your page for some time, but I never met you. We actually got to hang out at the Vortex Ambassador Summit this summer.
Hmm.
The super cool event until it was time to shoot pistols, and then I realized, being from Texas, I was like, "Oh, this is gonna be easy." I was
Yeah.
so humbling. I was so bad. My grip was all wrong. The instructors who were super cool there at Vortex Edge were like, "Here, do it like this," and I'm like, "I'm trying, but I still suck." And
Yeah.
yeah, I was. I think I came in next to last, and then third from the bottom in the competitions. Which, um, so they're training us. We're doing all these practice rounds, and they score us. And you're shooting it. I don't was it 30 yards, 20 yards, 10 yards, 5 yards, something in there. Um, and you can be actually less accurate if you're shooting faster. And I just was slow and inaccurate. So
Well, it's like you think being from Texas, I feel the same way from Utah. Like you're just born knowing how to shoot a pistol, right?
uh,
But like I never had any tactical training of any kind, and I was also very disappointed by how bad I sucked at freaking 10 yards. You think you should be able to put them all right in there. And
Oh,
when you
yeah.
think of yourself like in a defensive scenario, you're like, I'd smoke the guy. But then after you
Hmm.
go and do that thing,
Yeah.
I'm with you, man. It was an eye opener for sure.
The guys that won, one was from South Africa, and the guy that would finish second was from, I think, British Columbia, where they have to like go through years of permits just to acquire a handgun, and
Right.
they're smacking us around. It was embarrassing.
It was embarrassing, dude. It was an embarrassing day for the Americans for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
It's
So let's do something here. That this might be funny. It might be dangerous. I don't know. But if we're being honest, like, what did you know of me before we met? And I'll start because I just assumed, hey, and I followed your page, but I was like, this guy is just another. I mean, he's funny, but he's obsessed with shed hunting, which I think is kind of gay,
yeah,
and he's probably like a life member of BHA, just some Western guy that loves the 6.5 Creedmoor. And I was like, I couldn't have been more off base, you know? And so shame on me for having that predisposition of like what I thought Shed Crazy was about.
sure.
Uh, and I don't know if you even knew who I was before that.
No, I did, man. I'd seen you pop up in a few places, but it was like in freaking comment sections on Making Hunting Great Again and all these other pages. I'm like,
Oh,
this is a freaking hater, man. Like, who's this guy? And then I think I talked to somebody about you one time, and it was maybe I can't remember, maybe one of the First Light guys, maybe Kevin or somebody. I can't
uh,
remember. But then they're like, no, 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 that guy's cool.
yeah.
So, but yeah, same thing, right? You see people on the internet all the time, and you're like, that guy's a douchebag or whatever. But
Right. Yeah.
until you actually get to hang out with them, like that's a good thing about events in the hunting world is you meet people and you're like, oh no, everybody's like pretty chill. Like the
Yeah.
online persona is a totally different thing. But
Yeah. Yeah, so I couldn't have been more off base. You're a family man. You've got kiddos and conservative. We're recording on Inauguration Day, and like,
yeah,
what a great day to be an American. That's what you said as soon
right.
as we jumped on here. Yeah. So shame on me, you know. But couldn't have been more off base there. How many kids do you have?
I have three boys.
And how old are they?
10, 9, and 6. So they're just kind of like right in the thick of it and really
Uh-huh.
getting to where like they want to go, they want to go with me and see all the stuff they've been watching, seeing
Yeah.
pictures and videos of for years. They want to be there.
So what is Utah's like? For example, in Texas, my son is just turned 12. He's killed 5 deer. You don't have to. There's no minimum age. I think he shot his first. He shot a doe when he was 7, and he
Wow.
shot a buck every year since then. And I think that, and maybe Utah's the same way. I don't know, but I think it should be up to the parent to decide and discern when their kid is mature enough to pull the trigger. But a lot of states just take that out of the equation.
They do. And Utah is a 12-year-old state, so to hunt
Okay.
big game. You can hunt, I think turkeys the year you turn 12, or maybe it's 10. I can't remember. They do have some different ages for like different animals.
Uh,
Um, but yeah, like when I was a kid and growing up, it was 14. So I didn't get to hunt deer till I was 14. When my
wow.
dad was a kid, it was 16. So you really kind of missed out on a whole bunch. And so my opinion on it has been like, oh, let's let them get a little older before they go out and shoot a big game animal. I've been tempted to take my oldest to Texas and put him in a deer
Uh-huh.
blind, let him kind of do the thing. But I'm torn, man. I'm torn between that and like also wanting them to feel like they had to kind of earn it and like suffer through it a little.
Yeah.
And it's just, I think the culture you're raised in kind of just determines what's right for the kid, like around here, getting your first deer is like a pretty big deal. And it's like what usually happens to a teenager.
Okay. Yeah, and I think that was a good point that you made because so much of the, let's call it, infighting among the hunting community and the way that you view hunting and ethics and things like baiting or predator hunting or anything. Maybe not so much predator hunting, but certainly baiting is one.
Yeah.
Um, High fences is another. That all of that is really based on where you grew up.
Yep.
You know. Um,
Yeah. I had all kinds of preconceived notions about Texas and stuff. And then I went there and I'm like, oh, this is just the way they do it here. It's not like if you're not running bait in Texas, like
Good
you
luck.
deer probably going to go to the next guy. He's got a feeder. Like that's the
Right.
way
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
just cultural kind of.
So as a native Utahn, Do you get do you automatically get a tag for X big game animal every year?
Oh, so Utah is one of the tougher states,
So
especially
70% public land, and it's a tough state to get a tag.
it is, yeah. And like there's even they're trying to work on some programs that give youth priority, like they guarantee you. I don't know if it passed or not. I know that this last deer committee meeting, they were talking about a guaranteed program where you're guaranteed that one or two tags before you turn 18 if you put in for the draw
Uh-huh.
for the youth hunters. But like if it all comes down to what you want to hunt. Like if you're dead set on hunting a better unit, you might draw a deer tag every 20 years.
Yeah.
Or like, on a general unit, if you're trying to hunt with a rifle, it's maybe once every 3 or 4 years. And then you can pretty much get an archery tag every year or every other year, but it's all through like a lottery draw.
Okay. And that's what about for elk? Kind of the same deal.
They have over-the-counter elk units,
Uh-huh.
and they have a lot more over-the-counter opportunity for elk. They're pretty tough. They're hard to kill elk on, but you can. I think like second rifle season is unlimited tags for elk in Utah, and
Oh wow.
so you can just buy them and go try them. But I mean, it has like usually single-digit success rates, so it's
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
tough.
So you were on this quest to collect a shed in all 50 states.
Yeah,
Did you? I think you maybe had 2 or 3 states left when we hung out over the summer.
yeah. Yep, I think I had three left, and I got one more since then, but I haven't. I'm just kind of been waiting for spring, but I have two states left to go. I got to still go to Virginia and Louisiana, and
Mm.
then
And did you set any kind of time frame on that, or was just this is just something I'm going to do,
no, I
however long
kind of
it
want
takes?
to do it in two shed seasons in 2 years, and like when it's all said and done, it'll be just like two shed seasons in a month. But like I toyed with the idea of trying to do it in a year, but I'm like that'll be the end of my marriage for sure. Like if I'm
Oh
gone
yeah.
that much.
I was going to say like to add that on top of you know hunting obligations and time away from family. Your wife, much like mine, must be a saint.
It is for
Yeah.
sure.
um, what state was the hardest to find a shed?
And I really struggled in North Carolina. That was like I didn't have I actually had a pretty good contact there for some private land, and I talked to a guy that's like, yeah, man, I find him farming all the time. Come hike my stuff, and he was super nice. And I gritted out his giant piece of property for like 2.5 days and never found an antler.
Hmm.
And so I hit some public land, drove like hours away and hiked, and like finally I think it was the second day hiking on public, I found like a spike shed. And I was like so freaking relieved, dude. Just like people would have thought I was a nutbag. I'm like yelling and screaming over this little teeny spike antler, but it
Yeah.
was quite the ordeal.
I was saying that's another thing that based off of where you're born and raised, like shed hunting is a big thing, and it's become more popular in your lifetime. Um,
Yeah. Many
but
people say
like for
my
me,
fault.
like I could care less. I pick up a shed and just kind of move it out of the way so I don't run over it.
Yeah.
I was
Well, I
on a
mean,
mountain lion hunt in Colorado one time and found a nice shed from a 6x6. Uh, and I picked it up and looked at it and then put it back on the ground. And the outfitter was like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "What? You think I'm going to put this on my back and like carry it out with me?" He was like, "Well, if you're not, I am, and we're going to find the other one too." And so then we spent like an hour looking for the. We did. We found the matching set, and he put him on his back and hiked him out. And I was like, to me that I was just it was so foreign to me.
yeah.
Um, and in Texas, like going back to the private land thing, if I had my because I lease where I hunt in Texas and Oklahoma, if I had my own place, or maybe if I was hunting like a 200-inch deer and I found the shed, I think that would be cool. But just casually walking around and finding one, I don't know. It's so foreign to me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing being raised on these little whitetails too. Like they're not
Yeah.
that, they're not that fun to find. Like a big buck is cool, and even to me, mule deer for a while, I was really geeked out on mule deer sheds, trying to find big bucks. But
Uh-huh.
to this day, it's like mule deer sheds, whitetail sheds, they're cool. I like them. I like to do it, but elk and moose are, I mean, it's just they're so cool, and then the monetary value on them is worth actually going out and getting them. So,
So
I
you
mean,
don't have just a huge pile because that's the other thing. I see a lot of these guys, they collect them and they just hoard them and they put them in their garage. And I'm like, what's the point of that?
that ain't me. People are always surprised how few antlers I have because I mean, I've sold 90, 95, 98% of the antlers I've ever found. To me, it's just like I love to hike. I love to go new places. I love to get out and try to like figure the elk out. For me,
Mm-hmm.
that's coolest thing is just being like, where are they in this area? And then like making a guess based off everything you know on maps and stuff, and then having it be right is freaking cool.
Uh-huh.
Uh, but yeah, like at the end of every season, even twice a year, I'll sell to an antler buyer the vast majority of the
Okay,
stuff
so that makes sense to me. Like there's a monetary value. And of course, getting out and hiking, who doesn't want to spend time in off God's wonder that he's created for us, right? That's my sanctuary. But the fact that you actually don't have them hoarded up in your garage, uh, you know, that's like almost that's a common sense to me. I'm going to do this and I'm going to make some money.
And to me, the coolest antler in the world is one I haven't found yet. So like once I have it, once I've completed it, I'm not gonna go out there and like look at them all the time and be like, oh man, like I have pictures of them, I have videos of me finding them, and there's cool scenarios. And like if I'll keep them if I think I'm gonna find more years off of that animal, if I could have multiples or whatever. But even then, like I have multiple years off a few bulls, and I've sold some of the sets and um even giant cool stuff. Like it's gas money to me, man.
What's the most valuable shed that you found?
Probably just like um probably just big heavy elk antlers in general. Like I found some 13 pound brown elk antlers, and sometimes the buyer will give you a little bit more for trophy size stuff, and so you're looking at one antler being worth like $250 or something, and
Oh wow.
just let them go. I'll just
What,
sell
so
them.
what's the biggest matching set?
I found a 406-inch uh
Oh,
matching set, but they were really really old,
uh-huh.
really old. And I gave them to somebody. Actually, I sold them for cheap to a guy who's wanted to restore them, and
Yeah.
they were just pink chalk. But I have some sets that I bought or that I found and sold in Nevada, that were like just big, like high 360s, 370 type bulls, and I had a
Nice.
bunch off of one bull that I sold.
That's cool. That's cool. Um, so would you take a 6'5" Creedmoor elk hunting?
I have.
You have? Oh, so
I
you see, I
have.
was right. My
Yeah.
prejudgment.
There's some of that stuff in there. And no, I've killed two elk with a 6.5 Creedmoor, actually. But it was both scenarios where it was like close. I knew it was going to be close shots, and
Uh-huh.
I just had got the rifle and wanted to try it out, you know. So I do have a 6.5 Creedmoor, and
I
it's
do
one of my
too. I was shot a bunch of pigs and coyotes with it this past weekend, but that's what I
yeah,
shoot with it. I've never even killed a deer with it,
yeah,
because I have a 300 Win Mag and a 7 Mag that, or even a 270, and
yeah.
my hand goes into the gun safe and it just never grabs the Creedmoor for a big game.
Well, 270 is the Lord's caliber, so I don't blame you for choosing the 270 over it. I love a 270. I have a 300 short mag that I love,
Uh-huh.
but the Creedmoor to me is like I love shooting coos deer with it. I think it's a
Yeah.
great deer caliber.
Oh, for sure.
I think I would shoot. I've killed mule deer with it, so it's knowing. Like I'm not shooting an elk over 300 yards with it. You know, like
Hmm.
you just don't. Doesn't carry energy that well, and there's a reason for the stereotype, right? And the jokes, like
Right.
just is what
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah. So my buddy that I was pig hunting this weekend with, he was like, um, he's like, I shot a doe with my 223 in Missouri this year. I was like, why? I said, he has a 300 short mag as well. So why did you do that? He goes, well, I don't know. But I said, okay, if you had a trophy buck on camera, would you have taken that? He's like, no. And I was like, see?
Yeah, it's like, yeah, like, I think too much gun is a myth, right? If you shoot them good, you just want them as dead as they can be. And I've shot deer.
They can't be too dead. No.
No, I've
I'm
shot coos
always,
deer with short mag, so it's.
yeah. Yeah. So what is this? Is this a new obsession for you, the Coos deer thing?
I've been into it for a while. I think I shot my first one like in 2017, maybe,
Okay.
18. But we went to Mexico, and dude, I just love Mexico. Like,
Sonora?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
we went down and went with the guys from the Mountain Project, and they're super cool guys, and just had a blast. I'm like, these deer are freaking rad. So started putting in for them and hunting them in Arizona, and I killed a handful of them with a rifle, and so then I started getting the itch to try to kill one with a bow, and I've been trying that for a couple years. I actually shot one last year and then found it this year when I was down there hunting. So
Really?
it was just
Is that the photo I saw on your page?
yeah, yep. So I
Oh, that
loved
sucks.
to
So you
have,
found it a year later.
yeah, and I was like, it was a weird scenario when I shot it. Like I shot it, and I think it got pushed to me by some bird hunters because it was alert, and it walked under me at 15 yards. I was in a tree, and I shot it, and I'm like, perfect shot. And then a bird dog ran under me and started like barking, and it spooked the buck off.
Wow.
And I looked everywhere for it, and that deer went 1,000 yards after I shot it, which is insane to me. But even like I
Yeah.
found the bones, I should have took a picture of it because the whole carcass was there when I found it, and I had blown out his offside shoulder. Like there's a triangle broadhead hole through the offside shoulder. So I don't know how. I mean, I
How
hit
you
him
made
good.
it that far.
Yeah,
A
but
little
just
little whitetail subspecies.
yeah, they're scrappy, man. They're tough.
No. I went last year to Sonora and shot my first coos deer.
Yeah,
I love it. But I'm not gonna lie, I like the mule deer there better. Giant.
yeah. Um, I mean, if I could shoot those Sonora muleys, I'd be doing that. But
Yeah.
pretty,
But no, the coos are such a cool hunt, and they live in, you know, hellacious places. So yeah, cool animals. And
yeah.
so you're on this 2-year quest though to go in with a bow.
Mhm.
And had
Yeah,
that bird dog not screwed you, you probably would have already done it.
yeah. I mean, I can count it. I shot the buck and found it later, but I don't know. It does feel a little hollow. But this year, I had a couple opportunities at good bucks, and I'm trying to kill one out of a tree, which I don't know why, dude. I like to hunt for scenarios more than anything. Like, I like to try to do things a certain way.
Uh-huh.
It's more important than even the animal I end up shooting is like trying to do it. And I want to shoot a coos deer out of a tree. So I had a
So
couple
you're
good.
hauling a tree stand in on public, or are you hunting some private land?
It's public. But yeah, I'm hunting mostly out of a saddle. I do have a
Okay.
on stand too, but like the trees that I'm hunting are garbage. They don't ever grow straight. They're those oaks that kind of just like grow out and branch and hang down. I know you guys have a lot of those in Texas too, but
Yeah.
um man, it's a stupid game. I think this year I sat in a tree for 12 days maybe, and I
Mm.
had two bucks that I had a chance at, and one of them stopped where I couldn't shoot him and he walked away, and then the other one I shot a branch that was covering like the only branch in between me and him. I freaking dead X'd it. So
Oh, awesome. Yeah. What a kick in the crotch.
it
That's the
was
way it
great.
goes though.
Tree for 5 days.
When you do get it, it's going to be fulfilling for
Yeah,
sure.
hope so.
Um, yeah. Um, so your page is a fun follow. You don't take yourself too seriously, and I appreciate self-deprecating humor. I try not to take myself too seriously either, because the truth is everybody screws up, right? Like you might not see it on some people's pages, but I promise you, Tim Wells misses,
Oh
and
yeah,
like
for sure.
not that he takes himself too seriously either, but you don't see a lot of that stuff. We kind of just put it all out there, and it is what
Yeah,
it is.
yeah, I
It's,
agree.
it's good and the bad. But you make a lot of jokes, make a lot of funny reels. So encourage folks to check it out. It's Shed Crazy. If you haven't seen Ben's page before, and you have a big YouTube page as well. I'm not on YouTube that much though.
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing YouTube for like 8 years, so I think there's about 40,000 people over there.
Nice, awesome. So is this your full time job, or do you still do something else?
No, I've been doing this full time since 2017.
Uh-huh.
So I left a really, really hard to give up janitor job. Like it
Hmm.
was really tough to walk away from that. But now,
So
like
wow,
me,
so I mean that's quite a long time to been able to be blessed enough to call this a full time gig.
yeah, for sure. It's been a long road too, like there's always moments where it's like, oh, are we gonna have to go back and find something to do or not? But I'm lucky in a lot of ways, and like I don't want to, misrepresent it. Like full disclosure, my wife has a good job.
Mhm.
That without her, she stayed home with the kids for a while. Then she finished her degree and went to work because that was what she wanted to do. So it's been a team effort. I don't like to put it out there like, oh yeah, I'm just crushing, making so much money that we can all do whatever we want off it. But
Oh
we've
yeah.
done pretty well and been able to get by for a long time.
I mean, I'm thankful for every sponsor I have, but this is no get rich quick scheme,
Yeah,
right? I mean, my
it's a
wife
very, very slow maybe
she's
scheme.
a nurse practitioner, and um, that affords me the opportunity to do this for a living.
Yeah,
And also, though, she works at a hospital, so she can adjust her schedule. She just has to work X number of shifts a month, and they don't have to be the same every week, right? So
that's cool.
that's a blessing for my travel schedule. So we're kind of in the same boat there. Um, well, one thing I really wanted to talk about today was this crazy video I saw on your page,
Yeah.
and I don't know where you were elk hunting, but you stick an arrow in this bull,
Yeah.
and then I'm reading the caption, and it's like it's a crazy scenario, and I'll let you give us the backstory and kind of take the reins here and talk about how that played out.
Yeah. So we were hunting in Utah. It's a general unit that's unlimited archery tags, and we were out kind of in a deserty part of the state where there are very, very, very few elk. Like it's one of the least elk dense units. And during the summertime, some buddies and I found some bulls out there um, that were just like in the most random spot, place where you'd never expect to see elk. And we scouted them through the end of the summer and never saw anybody out there. So we thought we really had a chance of like having these bulls to ourselves. So opening morning, we go out there. There's a 6 point, and then there's like a one horn 5 point. It's like the goofiest. But I mean, on this unit, you're shooting any bull. Everybody
Right.
is
Yeah.
just the way it goes. So we started glassing on the opening morning, and I glassed across the way and saw a guy up on the hill, had full camo with a bow. He's has binoculars and a spotter on a tripod, and he's watching the elk. We've spotted the elk, and they're like kind of coming up towards him. And actually, he hadn't seen them quite yet, but they're walking right towards him. Like he's right in their path, set up perfectly. I'm like, great. So, there's a dude out. So we watch, and as we watch, these elk literally walk past him like maybe 60, 70 yards. And he kind of hunches down, sees him coming, draws his bow, shoots, and hits this bull in the leg, like hits it through the meat of the leg. And it runs out and kind of like stands around, does its thing, and then it runs clear. It runs like 1,000, 1,500 yards over closer to us.
Uh-huh.
And we're like, well, like our morning's screwed, like what are we gonna do now? So we sat there for about 5 hours and we watched this bull and watched the kid watch the bull, and he never went after it, never did anything, and we didn't know like what he was thinking. So we sent a buddy over to talk to him. We're like, hey, what's your plan? Like, are you gonna go after this bull? Like, do you know you hit it in the leg, And the guy's kind of just like, no, I got some people coming. We're gonna recover it. We're gonna find it. We're like, well, it's not dead, it's like standing around the other bull. And so he never made a move to go after it. So he kind of split up from this other bull, this one horn 5 point. And I'm like, well, I'm just gonna sneak in there and shoot the 5 point then, because these are the only two bulls within 50 miles.
Mm-hmm.
So I go sneaking in there, and I didn't know that 6 point was going to be right underneath me. So while I'm on the stalk, the 6 point moves around. So he's like right there. So when you see in the video, as I'm walking towards the edge, you can see the bull's antler tips. And I popped out on top of him at 4 yards. And I'm like, well, I knew he was hit. I knew what bull it was, but I'm like, I'm going to put an arrow in this bull. Like it's a 6 point public land.
Yeah.
So I shot the bull. I kind of
Four
like it.
yards when you shot him?
Yeah, he was 4 yards.
Wow.
So you can see, like in the video, the fletchings graze the rock and like it ends up in the bull's shoulder, but it got decent penetration, didn't get all the way through. Anyway, it turns and runs down the hill, and I'm like, I got to get another arrow in this bull. So I kind of loop around it. And then my buddy comes on the radio and he's like, hey, that bull just ran by me at 40 and I smoked it. I'm like, what the heck, dude? I had no idea he was even there, like, no idea where he was. And he's like, yeah, he's dying right here. So I look out over that little ledge and the bull's down. He's dying. My buddy puts another arrow in to finish him up. And it's like, oh, bull's dead. Like,
Uh-huh.
okay. Now we got three people who have shot this bull, which sounds crazy, right? Especially like hunting in Texas or anywhere else, you'd be like three people shoot one elk. It's like
Right.
not that common in Utah, just because over the counter, unlimited tags, whatever, it happens. So we went down there, we talked about it. We looked where my arrow hit it, opened it up, saw that it had hit the one lung, but it wasn't like that great of a shot. Like it was a good shot, but not like exactly where you'd want it. And
Uh,
talked about it. So the third guy ended up just tagging the bull, and the first hunter who'd hit it in the leg came down, and he was very not happy about the scenario. He's pretty sure that we had robbed his elk from him, and I just kind of like backed out of it. And this just kind of is what it was. It got a little ugly, to be honest, but
really?
we ended up kind of working everything out towards the end. But
Well, you shot it in the leg, bud.
right, yeah, it's like, I mean, I didn't feel like I had any claim to it because I'm like middle shooter, right? I didn't finish it off. I didn't hit it first. I'm just the guy that screwed the whole thing up. So I'm like, whatever, I'll just kind of step back and let them figure it out. And it
So
was
the guy was pissed though.
oh yeah, he's still pissed.
Yeah. Well,
Like we worked it out. We're all on good terms, but like it's still kind of a sensitive subject.
yeah, but I mean, you gave him 5 hours and he didn't really do
Yeah.
anything, and then you slipped in there and shot it. So,
Yeah. See, I felt like, I felt like when you look back on the scenario, I'll be like, man, maybe I could have done this different or that different. But overall, like it didn't seem like a big atrocity to me. But
mm-mm.
I
And,
guess
and the legality is whoever finishes it off. That's who claims the animal.
yeah, that's the way it's been decided in Utah. And it's actually got investigated. They called an officer out and everything. It turned into a whole ordeal. But the
Oh,
officer,
he did. The hunter did.
yep, he was basically saying that I don't know if he thought he'd hit it fatally, but he basically tried to make it sound like he hit the bull, tracked it, and then found it dead, and we were gutting it or something. Just wasn't the way it was. And the officer that came out, it's like, yeah, there was nothing wrong done here. Like we can tell. He
Well,
showed him
you
on.
like, here's the video.
Yeah, I did have to give him the video. I gave him the officer the whole thing, and they just basically said, yeah, there's nothing illegal here. Like it just is what it
Right.
is.
It's public land. Sometimes it's the Wild West.
Dude, it is. And like I've seen that happen multiple times. Like I think the worst one that I've ever been a part of, like I know 5 people shot one bull with rifles though, and
No way.
I was one of them. And just the way that mountain is kind of.
5 people shot one bull. So how did that play out? That's insane.
Yeah, so we pulled up on the knob and actually I shot it first. And so I mean, I've been in this other guy's scenario, you know what I mean? I shot the bull first and I hit it kind of like in the body but high. And it
Mhm.
was, I mean, not a great shot. It was rushed. There was a bunch of other people there. My brother-in-law shot and he hit it. It ran around the hill and it ran under our buddy Nick and he shot it. And then it went, it's still on its feet. Like, you know how they get their adrenaline going. And
Uh,
it's the
and all
herd.
of you were shooting at 6.5 Creedmoor, and that's why he
Dude,
was running away.
my brother-in-law shot it with the 300, I think. And then I can't remember what I shot it with, a 270 maybe.
Oh, wow.
Buddy Nick shot it with a 270 short mag. Anyway, it goes down the hill and I go after it. I mean, this is all quick, right? Like the bull's
Right.
in front of us, it runs. It's like boom, 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 boom. But it's still going. I ran around the hill and shot it again. And then it dumped down into the bottom of the creek. And I heard boom, boom. And I went down there and it had ran past the dude and he had shot it. And then somebody else had shot it in the neck and finished it off in the bottom of the creek.
A nice
But it's
bull?
like, no, it was just a raghorn, but it's a unit where you shoot anything. And
Uh,
like people I know that blows their mind, but it's like if you go hunt where we hunt, and especially where we used to rifle hunt those elk, it's not uncommon to walk out on a point, you can see 30 people. Like that's not uncommon. Like just orange dots for days. And
wow.
it's just the way it is. So
I've
I
never
don't
experienced that. I've hunted, um, well, most of the elk that I've hunted have been in New Mexico, where we pack in on horses 7, 8 miles when you're lucky enough to draw a tag.
know, right.
Um, think I've seen other hunters twice in there. No, people just don't want to go that far.
Yeah.
Um,
Unless you're set up, man, it's just not your average guy can't hunt like that.
yeah. Um, and then hunted in Wyoming, and there were other hunters. Like we called in hunters multiple times on that trip. Montana ran into other hunters, but not a lot. Like
Yeah.
one or two maybe in a week long trip.
Mhm.
Um, Colorado certainly run into people there.
Yeah, I've had a
Um,
lot of like similar situations in Colorado where multiple people shooting at an animal and stuff. And like I've been had a lot of scenarios where everybody's shooting at an elk, so I don't shoot because I don't want to get involved.
right.
Like it's not like I'm just trying to be on the front lines every time either. But there's been, I mean, like the biggest deer I ever had a chance at, me and a guy had a race basically like 20 yards apart, both of us trying to shoot the same deer, and he ended up killing it. And it was a 197-inch mule deer. So
With a rifle?
yeah.
Wow. A one,
It's just
197.
it was a buck that I hunted for 30 plus days too, and I never seen another hunter out there. And the day I finally found it, there was another guy right there, and he ended up killing it.
And did you see him? Like you knew you were
Oh
racing
yeah,
him?
oh yeah. I looked up and saw him running towards me. I thought he was coming to talk to me or something. I was sitting down and I could see all the other bucks, but I couldn't see the big buck. And so I stood up to go walk over to talk to him. And as soon as I stood up and changed my elevation, then I could see the big buck. And I dropped on the ground and got on my gun, and he dropped on the ground and got on his gun, and it was like a race, and he won.
Oh my God, dude.
It was sad. I was like,
Oh.
I still cry in the shower about that one sometimes because it was like giant deer. The kid was cool, man. I went over and took pictures for him afterwards and stuff, like shook his hand, told him good job, but like it hurt, bro. That one hurt bad.
But see, that's the thing. And that's the proper response to that situation. Is, he won the race,
Yeah.
and that sucks for you, but you can't be bitter about that.
Oh, it's
Um,
just, I mean, everything was done
I mean, you
legally.
can be a little bitter, but you have to carry yourself in a way that's like, as a hunter, a part of the community, you can't be mad at the guy.
No, no,
Lick your wounds and
cry and
cry
pride.
about it in the shower for sure. But yeah, that sucks. But the one that got shot by 5 different hunters, the last guy that shot in the neck took the bull.
Yeah, I went down there and he offered it to me. He's like, "You hit it first, you can have it if you want it." And I'm like, "Dude, I wouldn't feel like that's my bull. Like, you can have it." So I've been in these scenarios multiple times. I've never tagged an animal that multiple people shot. I've always just gave it away to somebody else because I know
And
how
plus, that one had 5 bullet holes in it. So
and he was in the bottom of the canyon. And then when it fell down the hill, it knocked its one antler off anyway. So I'm like,
uh,
"Oh, here, buddy, enjoy."
yeah, that's crazy. I've never. You hear about those things, but I guess living out there, it's just the way it is.
Yeah, and Utah stacks their hunters, and it used to be worse. Now there's multiple seasons and multiple units, and they kind of have it a little bit more spread out. But even 10 years ago, I mean, when it was the general rifle elk hunt, everybody was on the mountain those like first 3 or 4 days. It was just a zoo.
Yeah. Speaking of zoos, you see, and you're probably partly to blame for this, as a ambassador and face for the pastime of shed hunting.
Mhm.
And you've seen in recent years, states have had to say, "All right, you crazy folks, we're going to have a season now because you guys, not you, Ben, but people are pushing animals, trying to get their antlers to fall, right?" Which seems a little questionable ethically.
Sure.
And so these state DNRs have said, "All right, we're having shed seasons." Is Utah one that has a season now?
They can put one into effect, but they don't every year. They only do it on like really bad snow years or years where they think that the game are in danger of winter kill.
Okay. What do you think of that?
I think it's made up. I think that it's like I think it's made up. Like I think that the popularity of shed hunting has caused a lot of people to be kind of outraged at the amount
Mm.
of shed hunters there are and have gone and petitioned the state to do something about it. And I think they use the excuse of, oh, they're chasing the animals, but I don't buy that. I think that's made up. I think the only
Well, see,
people,
I've never seen it firsthand, right?
yeah,
This is just me regurgitating what the state's saying.
yeah,
So
for sure.
I don't have any basis to my claim that I was like, oh, some shed hunters are pushing animals and,
Sure.
you
Yeah, and
know,
it's like, well, okay, so are there guys who go walk prime wintering habitat at prime time when the elk are most vulnerable? 100%. They do.
mm,
Like I think that's always been the norm for shed hunting is you want to be in the zone when they're dropping. Um, the whole push them around thing, I mean, it's already illegal to harass wildlife, right? So if you're chasing them, period, even on foot, if you're chasing them from a snowmobile or a four-wheeler, that's been illegal forever. And I've been out in the woods as much as anybody at prime dropping time. I've never seen it. I've never seen anybody chasing animals around. I've seen people ride in four-wheelers and ATVs where they shouldn't, where it's
mm,
illegal. But I don't think that the people who are willing to go harass wildlife and chase them are going to obey a shed season either. So to me, I look at it like it's like the gun issue. Like you're going to take all the law-abiding people out of the field that time of year, and it's going to be a heyday for the people who are willing to break a season or willing to harass wildlife or willing to do whatever it takes to go out and get those antlers.
uh-huh.
I always favor less regulation and more education. I think that people need to know that, yeah, you can have a negative impact on wildlife if you get overly aggressive. And nobody wants more deer and elk than shed hunters, right? We want more sheds. We want more antlers. We want healthier herds. So just like hunters, in most cases, I think they can self-regulate.
That's a good point. So yeah, I hadn't gotten that perspective. So kind of just a made up thing from
Yeah,
pressure put on DNRs from pissed off folks.
I feel like that's the case. Yeah. And
Huh.
usually like people are opposed to shed hunting, it's because they're a part of some other, group or something who's it's just like an agenda that they're trying to push to. I mean, because especially if you look at like Utah, there you can hunt mountain lions with hounds during that same time frame. There's late cow elk hunts going during that same time frame. So
Huh.
like they obviously aren't that worried. There's wildlife counts where they're pursuing the wildlife with helicopters and planes to count them while they're on the winter range. So is it really a depletion issue, or is it just like I have a big I don't know if it's even a conspiracy theory at this point, but about 10 years ago, I think states realized they could possibly monetize off shed hunting.
Huh.
Nevada tried to do it. They tried to make it so you had to purchase a hunting license in the state of Nevada to pick up sheds. It got thrown out the first time. Uh, and I think over time, you'll see most states require you to buy a license to pick up antlers. And I think that's the plan.
Huh. What do you think about that?
I don't, in a lot of ways, I don't care. Like if the money's going to conservation and like it's going into the budget and you're benefiting from picking up antlers. Like if the state of Nevada came out and said if you want to pick up sheds, it's going to cost you 25 bucks a year. Like who cares, right? That's one deer antler. Big deal.
Right.
I don't like the idea of the potential regulation though. Like are they gonna now they have a season, now you have to buy a license. What's next? You have to pick a unit. Like you have to pick a
Right.
tag. Like you allowed to only pick up so many. They've already messed with your ability to sell them. They've tried to regulate your ability to sell them. So it's like,
Really? How have they done that?
well, just recently in the state of Utah, they required a whole registration process to be an antler buyer. You have to register with the state. And now there's a whole thing on it was last year they put into effect where it's like basically says the state gave itself the right to regulate antlers and the sale of antlers in the legislature.
Huh.
So it's always something that like they want control of it. They want to be in charge of it. And they don't like the fact that there's people who can monetize off of the wildlife without the state getting their cut.
That's crap. It's a renewable resource.
Yeah.
Like one that I'm not interested in, right? But I'm fascinated by the whole culture of it, and talking to people like you that are extremely passionate about it. Yeah, that's insane. Like, but
yeah.
yeah, they always want their piece of the pie.
Yeah.
So I've seen and I think as just a casual observer of this whole thing, I see a video. I think it was like Wyoming maybe, and it was opening day, and there's all these people outside of this gate, and they open the gate, and then it's four wheelers and people sprinting, and I think a girl fell off of a horse, like got bucked off of a horse, and I'm just like laughing at the calamity of this whole circus that they've created by having a season.
Right. Yeah. And that's what people I don't think understand either. Like Nevada
Hundreds
made it.
of people been running out to go
Well, I've
start
seen
on
it.
opening day of shed hunting.
I don't go to those, but I've seen. And yeah, and even like Nevada now having a season, you go out there on opening day. It's like the opening day of the deer hunt. There's camps everywhere, people everywhere. And I don't think most of those people would even go if they weren't just like tomorrow's the opener, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they have now a date. We can go get them. And I think it makes it more of an event. If all those people had to put in the work through the whole season to be out there scouting, to compete, to be successful, then I don't think most of them would even go.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so it's kind of a byproduct of their own regulation. It's created that
Yeah.
circus like environment on opening day.
Cool.
Um, Crazy. So what do you have planned for? You're about to go to Mexico
Mhm.
and chase coos deer. Rifle or bow?
Rifle.
Well,
Yeah, I'm taking the Creedmoor
right
for
on.
the.
Mexico is actually not a hard place to get a rifle in.
It's not that bad. Yeah, I think I had to do my permits like a month or two ago. Maybe they had to be in, but yeah, just a little bit of paperwork and then you have to do a little check with the military when you cross the border.
Yeah. Canada, for example, is way worse. I don't know if you've been taking a rifle up there, but geez, dude, like
Uh,
it's a nightmare up there.
Once it's the
But
50.
Trudeau's leaving, so maybe we'll get. We're really gonna miss her. We'll see.
Yeah,
Um, so all right, so you're doing that, and then do you spring turkey hunt, or is that all shed hunting time?
it's pretty much shed hunt time for me. I've come to Texas and hunted spring turkeys before, but I just like I can't get into it, man. I have a hard time with it.
Yeah. Well, that's crazy because you like bow hunting elk during the rut.
Yeah,
That's,
yeah.
turkey's
Wait,
very similar. You call them in.
I've heard that, man. I think that's like the worst comparison. Like it's the same as
Oh,
man. If you that I say anybody who says elk hunting is like turkey hunting has never had a screaming bull come in because you cannot say that's the same. Like
I don't know. I mean, anything. Well, it's not the same because it's not an elk, right? It's a turkey, but it's the same concept. You gotta try to talk them in, outsmart them. This one I
Yeah.
shot. This one I shot in New Mexico at 17 yards right in the chest, screaming.
Would you
Was
trade that for a turkey hunt?
that would be insane. No, I would never do that. Okay, so
Yeah.
maybe on that, on that aspect, they're
Just the
not
cool
comparable.
factor. I get the similarity, like tricking them and work them in. It's cool too to like shoot a bird and then you don't have to take the whole day butchering it. That's nice.
Oh, yeah, that is true.
Back out easy.
Yeah. What about your plans for 2025?
So I've been doing a lot with lever guns lately. So I've
I
kind of
saw
just
that on your page.
yeah, I
Did you
love
get a
them.
4570?
Yeah, so I've been looking for a Marlin 4570 for years and I finally found one and bought it. I had ended up buying two the same week, like a 4570 and a 357, which was not good for my marriage. Like it was a strain. It was a bad choice.
Uh,
But I just haven't been able to find one. They've been out of stock everywhere. They're super hard to come by. And then I found two in the same week and bought them both. But
and then your
um,
wife was looking at the checkbook like, what are
oh
you
man,
doing?
she's like, you just have more on guns than we spent on Christmas. Sorry. They come around, you got to get them. But yeah, man, I just love my dad's had this Marlin guide gun 4570 like my whole life. And I've always wanted to go shoot an elk with it. And I really want to see if I can get a bull open sight 4570 and then shoot some deer with lever guns this year. I kind of have a little plan in the works where like I want to try to travel to some states and maybe do like the native deer slam with a 30-30. I think that would be pretty freaking fun, but I haven't
Yeah.
really, if I'm
What
gonna start figuring it out right now.
what grain bullet are you pushing out of that 4570?
Um, the one I'll probably end up shooting is a 300 grain Barnes. It's they have a new line called the Pioneer line that's just built for lever guns. And I think that's probably what I'll end up using. I was practicing the other day with some Hornadies that are 200 grains.
Hmm.
The BC on them is pretty actually good. You can actually shoot them to a decent distance and they
Hmm.
have plenty of power, but I think I'll go a little bigger.
How much drop or what would your max range be with that? Like I've shot a deer with my grandfather's Marlin 3030, which was pretty cool. And I just did that for nostalgia sake, right? Just because it was
Yeah.
his. And then I
Yep.
put it back in the safe and I haven't shot it since then.
Yeah.
Um, but like I'm shooting let's say like with a muzzle loader. Like
Mhm.
I wouldn't shoot past 200 yards. I don't know if your effective killing range is somewhere similar with the 4570 or if you can shoot further than that.
Yeah, it depends because the 4570 carries a ton of energy if you get enough, you get the right load behind it and stuff. So you're more limited by your open sights as long as you know what your drop is like. But my realistic hunting range with that open sight 4570 would be like 200 yards. Like I'll shoot it at 300 and figure out what my drop's like and see if it's a feasible thing. And maybe in a certain scenario, I would take a shot at 300, but I think it's 200 and in pretty much.
Uh-huh. That's cool. Yeah, I've shot with a lever gun. I've shot a mountain lion because I was like, I didn't want to. To me, shooting an animal out of the tree with a bow, and tons of people do it.
Yeah.
It's not for me. Like I shot a black bear, like we treated with hounds, and I shot it with a bow, and it took a long time to die, and
Oh,
I
really?
I didn't like it, and it was just the angle of the arrow, the shot placement, and trying to get another one in it. I'm like, I could have just shot it with the rifle, and this would have been over like that.
Yeah.
But I like the whole western, especially if you're on horseback. You gotta, you know, a lever gun with you. Yeah, I like that. I like that a
It
lot.
just feels right, man. I think lions and bears, like, I just think they're made for lever guns. Like, I killed a lion and a bear with my bow too, but any more that I shoot in the future, I'm going to do them with lever guns for sure.
Yeah, yeah, I agree, 100%. Well, cool. Well, tell everyone where they can find you, my friend.
Yeah, so everything's under Shed Crazy, YouTube channel, Shed Crazy Official, and then Shed Crazy on Instagram, formerly on TikTok. Uh, I don't know. I heard it's back up. I actually haven't done anything over there for like 2 years, so
I don't know. I was thinking about starting a TikTok. I never did do it,
maybe it's the time. It's definitely the easiest one to grow on. Like brain rot over there is on another level.
the brain rot.
Man,
I think
you
I'll
could
stay off of it then.
over there.
My wife sends me reels, and I'm like, I can't open them. I don't have the app. So,
Yeah,
but I think she just thinks everyone has it. But
yeah. I
I
haven't
don't
had
know.
it on my phone for 2 years.
Mm.
Chinese spyware, bro.
Yeah, yeah. I'm out. I'm out. Well, good times to be an American, my friend.
Hey,
Yeah. Well, Ben, thanks for the time, brother. It was great to catch up, and let me know if you make it down to Texas.
Okay. Yeah. Appreciate you having me on, man. It's been fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Take it easy, brother.
Yeah. See ya.